The views and opinions expressed during Love and Life with Lana and Dave are those only of the speakers and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or the position of our podcast hosts or affiliates. Any content provided is not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, anyone, or anything. All right, let's do it.
You're listening to Love and Life with Lana and Dave, the podcast where logic is power and you take control. Thank you for tuning in and making the choice to listen in and get ideas for your own love and life. Now, here are your hosts, Lana Williams and David Vaccaro.
Hey, I'm Lana.
Hey, and I'm David. Hi, Lana.
Hey, David. How's it going?
It's going good. It's been a week.
It has been a week, and we are
That's right.
not completely into 2023 very far, but we've
we're
gone a little ways.
We're getting there. We have nothing to discuss about it yet. We talked about it in our last episode. So today we're going to actually talk about how women should negotiate. And the reason why we came up with this is because Lana threw me under the bus and said, David's going to do a topic about how women should negotiate. So one of the things that I found, and I'm going to explain a little bit of how we got here. One of the things that I found, and it kind of blew me away a little bit, was how men are now getting into nursing. And it's been predominantly a women's field for many, many, many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now men are coming in and they're making more money than the women. So I did a little bit of research on that. And then I started looking at real life things, which is pretty interesting. So many, many women that I talk to today, and I ask this question of them all the time. They're like, oh, I start a new job Monday. I go, awesome. What does it pay? I don't know. Okay. I don't know. If you ask a guy how much he's getting paid, he knows because it's part of the conversation. And so what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about how women should negotiate. If you want the same pay as a man, you have to negotiate like one. And I don't mean like one, you just have to negotiate. And there's reasons, and I did a little research on this because Lana said, hey, you're going to do a thing on this. So I did a little research of how come women don't negotiate like men do? Why? What's the problem here? And there is a thing that I found where women are afraid to lose, and they're very serious. When they want that job, they're more concerned than a man whether they get the job or not. A man is more of a risk taker by nature, right? Because generally women are more logical. I mean, women are more emotional and men are more logical. That's a scientific thing that just happens, right? For the most part, Lana herself is not.
I'm not, but that doesn't mean
that doesn't mean
probably...
a majority is not.
Right.
So women do job interviews based on emotion as opposed to logic. Well, a guy is more willing to take risk and not get the job, even though, and I can tell you that if somebody comes in and they come in and they go, hey, they're here for the job interview. I ask them some questions and I say to them, and they say, okay, what does the job pay? Or a lot of times what I will do on the higher end jobs, I'll be like, well, the job pays $100,000. And I leave it at that, right? Because it's my job to give him as little as possible. Because the more money that the company has, the more people I can hire, right? So,
or whatever,
you can
right? Use it towards other stuff.
Yeah,
right?
of course, yeah, absolutely. So if it's in my budget to pay that guy 120, but I tell him it's 100,000, and he says, okay, great, and takes the job, I've paid him $100,000 where I would have paid him 120, and 100% of women that I've actually interviewed myself, not one of them has ever negotiated with me, ever. I tell them the job pays this, and they go, awesome, great. And they're pretty good, and they go, when can I start? They then they start getting a little bit more comfortable. But never do they say to me, well, I really need to make 120, because that's where I need to be, And if that person is somebody I want for the job and my budget is 120, I'm going to give them the 120. So in nursing, if you look at statistics of why the men went in and the men negotiated and got more money, that's why they're getting paid more money than the woman. The woman thinks, still, I mean, look, we know that we came from a very convoluted society over the years, right? We've changed a lot. I mean, women couldn't vote. They couldn't smoke. I mean, what was it? Virginia Slims, right? Was the one that made a cigarette just for women. Was Virginia Slims.
Oh, okay.
Where they were, now women can smoke and make it fancy as opposed to being.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was Virginia Slim that did that. And I forget what their quote was.
Credit cards.
Yeah, credit cards, same thing. All that same stuff that women were not allowed.
Car notes, yep.
Yeah. A woman couldn't get a loan.
Not very long ago, yep.
Yeah.
Was it 70 years?
Yeah, maybe that or less even. But the thing is that today we're in a different society, right? Because there's no question women are as smart as men. There's not an issue there.
Of course.
So
I think sometimes we're a little smarter, but that's all right.
That's a high probability too of certain things, right? Because you look at any successful man, usually there's a pretty strong woman right there with him, So if you look at but the negotiating skills of women, they suffer. And you need to go in there with a positive attitude. When you go to interview, you need to go with a positive attitude and you need to ask for more money.
Now, here's my question, Dave.
Yes.
And I'm going to start with this. If you're a woman that's looking for a job, let's start with the actual looking for jobs, the ad, what the ad says.
Yep.
What your resume needs to be like.
Sure.
What salary or whatever it may ask you in an application, what you want to make.
Right. Always. Yeah.
What to do with all that.
Okay. So when it asks you what you want to make, we don't even look at that. We don't look at any of that crap that we asked you. We look at your resume. Okay. So in your resume, make sure that you qualify for the job, right? And usually the job will provide you with that information, which means if you want the job, I will tell you that a guy does not have one resume. When I do my resume and I rewrite it for every single job. I tweak it for every single job to fit that job description.
Right.
Because if you don't mention it, you may get overlooked completely. So change your resume to fit that job. Don't lie, by the way, because.
Let me ask you a question. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
I've done a little bit of my own studies, not necessarily for this. I do know that between men and women, men tend to go up, which they do outside of the workplace as well. Let me just throw a sales pitch at this person and I'll deal with whatever the job entails when I get it.
True. Yep.
As opposed to women who are like, ooh, I qualify for 80% of this job, but the 20% I don't haunts me, and I'm not sure that I should apply.
That's another thing too. Absolutely. Yeah. So here's the thing. Look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and look at yourself and go, am I smart enough to do this? Yeah, I am. I'm smart enough to get there. And, chances are pretty good that if there's 20% of that job description that I don't quite match, I've done things that are close to it. So kind of turning it a little bit to mold it to be able to do it, mold myself to be able to do that particular thing instead of the way I used to do it. I have confidence in myself. So yes, I will go there and I will sell myself regardless. Now, if they straight up ask me about something specific and say, hey, do you have experience with this? And I say, and I will give them, well, not directly with that, but I have experience with this, which was similar to that. And I think the transition to that would be very simple for me. And that's part of the communication, right? That's part of selling yourself. I do notice that a lot of times, again, when I interview, now you heard me the way I just spoke and said that, right? That's exactly how I would speak in an interview as well. I try to take command of that. I'm the one selling me, right? If somebody's trying to sell you something and you're there and you're constantly asking question, they're not selling you anything, right? You're the one trying to see if they fit. So ladies, don't let them just ask questions. When they give you a chance to speak, and don't interrupt too, because that's not polite either. That's not a good thing, because then they think, you're a pain in the ass. So, and I don't care who does it. If somebody keeps interrupting me, I hate that. So the thing is that, and I'll take that into consideration because I'm going to probably have to sit in meetings with this person at some point, and I'm going to be annoyed and want to slap them in their lip, but I can't. So, but when you get the chance to talk with confidence, talk with factual. The stuff that comes out of your mouth, make it sound like it's a fact. It's a fact that you're smart enough to be able to manipulate yourself to work in that environment. Talk like it's a breeze for you, because that's really what we want to see. We don't want to see somebody that's not sure, or that, when in the question, they'll always ask you, why did you leave your last job? We don't want to hear any friggin' drama at all. As soon as I hear drama, and I don't care if it's from a man or a woman, chances are pretty good you're not getting hired. Well, the manager, blah, 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 you're out. You're done.
Well, that's kind of, I personally think it's unprofessional.
It is
anyway,
unprofessional.
to get into details.
It is.
So you could say, well, my boss and I had a little bit of a different vision on how we should proceed.
That would be a good way to say it.
Conflict of interest, or whatever it is,
If at all,
Right.
Just for me, I never talk about, and it's happened. I mean, I've had past jobs where I literally almost got in a fist fight with my manager. We were nose to nose, and it was horrible. And I interviewed, and they said, what happened at your last job? And I said, I'm just looking for growth. I said, and it wasn't the right fit for me. That's all I said. It wasn't the right fit for me. The environment there was not really what I was looking for. I'm looking for more of a, an area where we all work together, or, whatever you're looking for, speak that. But don't forget, whatever you're looking for better fit what they're looking for. Because if it doesn't, you're not going to get, or they will go, this person was a weak interview, so let me lowball them. Okay. And that's very common too. So let's say I come in and go, yeah, this job pays $80,000. You good with that? And they go, yeah, because my job too. And here's this, which I think is terrible. And I do not treat my employees like this, and I never will. But the time when you do, when you're asking for raises, and that's another thing too. It's like, when was the last time you got a raise? Well, I haven't got a raise. I've been there for 3 years. You haven't got a raise? When was the last time you knocked on his door and said, hey, we need to talk? Right? Because guys will knock, knock, knock. Hey, I've been here for 3 years. It's time I get a raise. Let's talk about a raise. I remember one time, I'll give you an example. I had a female boss, and she was a great boss until it came time for raises, because she had zero negotiation skills, and I had negotiation skills. And this is what it came down to. So I was literally working hourly at the time, and I was working about 75 hours a week. So I was making good money. And she came to me and she said, hey, good news. We're going to put you on salary. Well, yeah, salary is good news, but I'm already working 75 hours. So salary is for 40 hours. And if I only work 40 hours, then maybe I'll be getting decent money. So I said, well, let's see. The amount that you're giving me here, and this is what I said to her, I go, the amount that you're telling me I'm going to get, and if I work the 75 hours that I have been for the past year, I'm taking a cut in pay. And I just looked at her and I said, I'm not interested. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm not interested. And she goes, well, I have to switch you to salary. I go, I'm not interested. If you switch me to salary, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, I can't just do that. And I go, you need to give me this much salary or I'm leaving. That's what I said.
Salary has to match what you're already making. Yeah.
Yeah, at least. And so I said, that's not a raise. If you want to give me a raise, then this is what I need to make. And she goes, well, I haven't got the ability to do that. I said, I'll sit here and I'll wait for somebody who can. And that's what I said to her. This is my boss I'm talking to, right? Now, am I taking a risk? I might just get shit canned. Yes, I was taking a risk.
Yeah, but, well, going forward, it looked like you would have had to take a cut anyway. Like, it looked like there was an ultimatum happening.
I absolutely
No,
didn't.
I'm saying, but
yeah.
your ability to, if you look at how it was, what was going to happen, it could have been that if you didn't confront for that, you would have had to just take a salary.
Right.
Like, in other words, what else were you going to do? That's basically
correct. And that's what a lot of people do, right? And here's the thing. I know it's a risk, but if you want to be successful in life and get bigger salaries, you need to take a risk. But don't forget, there have been times where I said, yeah, I'm not interested in this particular job that I'm talking about. He came down and he said, hey, he goes, I can't give you that much money. That's more than she's making. She's your boss. And I go, that's not my problem.
Mhm.
I go, if you don't meet this number, I said, I'm giving my notice today. I said, I'll give you a 1 minute notice. That's what I said to him.
Mhm.
And he said, I can't do it. And I said, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going to pack my stuff and I'm out. Well, I left and he immediately hired me back as a consultant, making twice the amount. Now he can pay me more than he can pay her, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So it worked out for me. All my benefits were gone.
But you never
and
know,
stuff.
right? It could have not, right? But you were okay with that.
Absolutely.
You
I
gotta
was.
be.
It's look, when you're making, if you want to make good money or you want to make as much as the guy next to you, then you're going to have to take risk, because that guy took risk to get to where he is, believe it or not. And I'm not saying that there's no such thing as womanizing or, treating a woman less than a man. I know that exists, but I believe that it shouldn't. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't, because I don't believe it should.
Right.
But in reality, there's a lot of people in my position that do the hiring that believe the same thing I do. There are a lot of people that are in the position that I'm in to hire and give big salaries. And I don't care if it's a woman, a man. I don't care their color. I don't care if they're straight, gay. It doesn't matter to me. None of it. If they can do the job and I want them, I will give them the salary that I have to get them through the door. Now, granted, if they come in and say, hey, I need 200,000 and my budget's for 120, I can't help you. There's sorry, we're.
So I'm going to have you walk us, because you're not necessarily linear about this. Let's walk through the process of from the time a woman wants to, let's say, leave where she's at. And also let's discuss negotiation for promotion, things like that.
Yep.
But yeah, from the beginning, from the, I see a job I want.
Okay.
I find it. What is it? What is the wording of the ad that they see, or whatever?
Here's my highly recommend. I highly recommend that you maintain the job you currently have while you're interviewing. And the reason is because you don't need the job that you're going to. And when you go in with that attitude of, I don't really need it, I want it. And even if you're really desperate and want to get out of that other job, you still have stable income. Right. So and I tell people, don't quit until you get another job, because
I really don't know why anybody would do that.
A lot of people do.
Get it.
A lot
it's
of
so
people
weird.
do.
I mean, unless there's a literal.
I get it.
Thing where you have to quit because somebody's just
sure
in the moment of something that's happening in your workplace. I get it.
I get that. Right.
But just arbitrarily to go. No, I wouldn't.
A majority of believe it or not, a lot of people that I speak to, and not just women, men too, they're looking for a job because they quit their other job. And I'm like, why? Because now you have this thing of desperation. When somebody comes to me for a job interview and I see the desperation, I got them at a lower salary. I will actually go, I normally say this job pays 100,000, but I'm going to say this job pays 86. And generally they jump on it because they're desperate. And that's sad. But in reality, now I can keep that person for many, many years. And I can give them decent raises, and they're still not getting to my budget. You understand? So it's the way it works, and a lot of people don't realize that. That's the way it works. There is a budget. Now, if you hit the top of the budget when you're getting in there, it may be a while for you to get a raise too. So understand that.
You're making good money.
But you're making good money. You put the money away.
I look at it like this. I always say to people, when you want a new car, never wait till your old one dies. Always go shopping while you still have a car to drive.
Otherwise, you're going to be desperate, and you're going to get a car, and you're going to go, I wish I waited for the other car. Always. Hear it all the time.
So just drive around when your car is doing really good, and kind of you have that option to be like, oh, I don't want this, and you can leave, and you're still right where you started.
Exactly.
I think it's kind of the same thing.
And so if you're in the other job and you have the ability to say, I can't come to work. I like the job. I want the job, but the salary we're off on the salary. And they go, well, what do you need? And you go, well, I kind of need to be at like 122, And they go, well, I can do 120. And you go, well, I could do 120. Send me a written. And I always okay, it depends what kind of job you're into. So I always ask for a written offer. I want to see the offer in writing because I don't want there to be any questions later. And it's not an uncommon thing. Obviously, if you're going to work at a restaurant or something like that, then, I don't know. But going to work anyway, you can ask for a written offer if they make you an offer. And I generally don't leave without some sort of offer because I want to know, do I get the job? And obviously in my line of work, there's a process. If you're an executive level, it could take a year of interviewing before you get a job. So
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you say to them, can you actually ask them in the interview, once the interview wraps up, if you can have the job?
Yes, absolutely.
In other words, if you're up against like 30 people, I mean, you don't really know, right? You never really know who you're up against. The person telling you could be telling you anything.
Oh, yeah.
While you're shaking hands with that person, can you just say, hey, why don't you tell me now? Could I have it?
Here's a perfect opportunity right here. At the end of every interview, I say, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
And when they ask me, do you have any questions? I go, absolutely. When do I start? And I laugh and they go, well, let's not put the cart before the horse. And I go, I'm not. I'm totally serious.
Yeah.
Like,
I found one good question is, and I don't want to just interject this. I say to them, what would I have to, how do I word it? In 6 months' time, what would I need to bring to the table in order for you to think you made a good decision hiring me?
that's a good one. That's a
You know
really,
what I mean?
that's a really
in a
good
6 month review, what would make you, what would make you appreciate the fact that you kept me on or you brought me
you
on?
hired me. Yeah.
What would be the things that,
That's a good thing. If somebody said that to me, I would be very interested in that candidate. Absolutely. So that's a very good thing to say.
There's a few of them like
yeah,
that.
there are.
But anyway.
There are other ways to say things too. Like, I've had people ask me, which I thought was really good. It was the end of a interview, and I said, "You got any questions for me?" And he goes, well, I'm trying to think of how he worded it. He said, "So I'm assuming you have other candidates to look at." And I said, "Oh, absolutely." And he goes, "How do I rate on the candidates you have so far? How am I doing?" And being honest, I said, "You're up in the top two." He goes, "So it's between."
How do I make it one?
That's what he said. He goes, "What would you need for me to come in better than that guy?" And I said, "Well, that's an interesting question." And I go, I don't remember. And that's what I said, because I needed out of it. I'm backpedaling because, we had resumes coming in. We had a lot of resumes, and I knew that we weren't done. So a lot of bigger companies too, they will have a hire date planned, and they will, I don't care how great you are, they're not hiring you until that date. Right. And they're going to keep you on the back burner. Now, is it okay to follow up? You damn well better follow up. Right. If it's a type of job, send an email. Thank you for the interview. I appreciate it. Any
questions, any extra information you need, let me know.
Absolutely. 100%.
Have a referral sheet ready to go.
You better, because sometimes that's a thing that we'll do. You have references that we can call, and we don't, like, if anybody asks you at the beginning, like, so one of the things is I had with my resume, I would say, references will be provided upon offer. Yeah, and the reason I say that is because I don't want people calling my references and bothering them all the time. My references are high-end people, right? So if I got a high-end guy and he's answering calls like,
while you're on a job, while you're looking for a job and you go to like 30 interviews. And every one of them's calling. Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be like, screw you, dude. Stop sending these people. So I would say, upon offer, references available upon offer. If you're offering me the
that's
position,
good, because then you only, people that ask for it, they're kind of more considering you then. There's also another, like, what would you, in your team, what is it that you're missing that you're looking to add? What strengths are you looking to add to your team in this particular interview process from a candidate? Like, what is it that you're looking to, what is it you feel your team needs in order to be a stronger team? Yep,
absolutely.
Things like that. But anyway.
And always remember this too. Every company that you go to, let's say you're an accountant, okay? You're going to go to company A. You worked at company A for 15 years using some software package that you're very familiar with, and you go into a new company that has the same software package. Guess what? It's still going to be a different company. There's still a learning curve, right? Because companies don't do things the same. Even if you think that it's the same thing as the last company, just a different company name, it's not. Everybody does things differently. Managers like things done a certain way. And those are things that you have to conform to. So always remember that too, because when you come in to a company, don't forget you're in a probational period. Everybody.
Right.
Because in all states, we have the ability to fire somebody within, the first 3 weeks if they're just not working out. And we can say things that just aren't working out. See ya,
Right.
Now at that point, you've quit your other job, right? You have to because you're coming to work somewhere else. So just remember something. Pick up the way that they do things and accept that that's the way they do things, because you're not going to come in there and try to change stuff. We've had people come in and go, we used to do it this way. I think it's better and blah, blah, blah. And they keep trying to force it that way. Guess what happens at the end of 3 weeks? They're gone because we got a smooth situation going here. Just because you did it another way and it worked for you, this is how we do it here. And we gave you the job.
That's once again weird that somebody would do that, but okay.
They do it. A lot of people do
I know.
Yeah, a lot of
finding
people.
Out some interesting things that people do that I did not realize.
It's crazy how many things that I've had, and here's another thing for the ladies too: keep your emotions out of work. Your emotions, nobody gives a shit. The thing is that, and you've seen it, maybe in movies or in real life, whatever. The guy goes to work, nobody knows. Or they shouldn't know what the hell's going on in his personal life.
Right.
Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. You got a job to do. Either come to work and do your job or stay home and get fired. Right. And I know it sounds horrible. And I know the emotional side of people go, no, that's not right. Well, too bad, because that's reality.
It's work.
Right. It's work.
Work is work.
Work is work. And home stuff is home stuff. Like, I don't care that, look, I have compassion for people. I'm not an asshole of a boss. I care.
Somebody dies.
Yes,
like that,
absolutely. You're having, oh, my kid's sick. I got to go. If your kid is sick every week and you got to go home like 2-3 times a week for the past month,
right?
Stay home
within reason.
Be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's got to be within reason. And and I've seen people get mad about that. Well, I'm a mother, and I go, okay. Well, I didn't hire a mother. You know what I mean? I hired an employee. So I know it's difficult, because if you're a mom, you're a mom, and that's a lot of work. And I get that. And I'm not demeaning that in any way. You've heard me talk about it in the past. In fact, I'm more attracted to housewives than anything on the planet. Right. And stay-at-home moms. I love that. I think it's a great thing. However, if you're in the workforce, you have to be able to separate the two. As hard as it is. I know it's easier for men because, fathers can tend to separate a lot easier, especially if
they're not usually the ones that have to go home and take care of stuff either.
That's correct. Yeah. I've heard it. I've heard it in the past where I've heard it in places that I was at, employees that work for me, hearing them talk to the wife going, I can't go pick them up. I'm at work. You go pick them up. I know you're at work, but I'm in the middle of this, and it's an argument in whose job is more important, right?
Right.
And usually the guy wins, and that's not okay. But
that's a whole nother podcast. Is what it is.
That's a whole nother. There's just a whole nother thing there, and I think it should. I think honestly, let's play it fair. I did it last week. You do it this week, so I don't lose my. You know what I mean? It should be.
Well, everybody should. I think all hands on deck when you're dealing with kids and schedules.
But if somebody's got to go pick up a kid from school because they're sick, somebody's got to.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So
take damn turns.
Meaning all hands on deck. Meaning let's sit down and work this out. Not no one of us is not solely responsible for all of this.
Right.
So you work it out. But so what you're saying is, if I want a specific job, I see something I like.
Yep.
I say, hey. First, I'm going to obviously look for a better situation and a better pay or a better company.
Yes.
I don't know if you feel this way, but I have told friends of mine, and I have done this. If I'm going to interview for a company, I kind of look the company up to get some history.
Absolutely.
What do they do? What is their product? How long have they been in business? Some of their corporate information, just something so that it looks like. A lot of times for me, I already kind of know because I'm interested in the company, and that's why I applied. But just a feel for obviously you don't want to study the company down to the last detail, but you want to at least have some idea what the company's about.
Yeah. So if we're going to touch more on interviewing, absolutely 100% know the company and then know the person that you're interviewing with. You should be able to find information about them. And if you don't, when you get inside their office, you're generally going to see pictures of their kids, a picture of a sailboat, a picture of something. Pay attention to what's in that room. And like for me, I started off with, oh, is that your boat? Oh God, I used to have a boat. Boat stands for break out another 1,000. We're breaking the ice, right? I'm breaking the ice because I don't want this guy to look at me as a sales pitch guy. I want this guy to look at me as a human being, and that fits all the needs that he needs, right? That makes me worth more to him psychologically, by the way, because just because I had a boat and he has a boat doesn't mean I'm going to be better at my job. It doesn't. Right.
But it's a weird, it's a familiarity.
It is, absolutely. Tactic. I mean, so I had the honor of, in 1991, I used to sell cars I used to sell Acuras. And back then, either you had an Acura or a Lexus. Anybody who was anybody had an Acura or a Lexus. Those were the two big cars in 91. They were the two biggest cars, selling for people that had, upper middle class. So I was selling Acuras, and I was salesman of the week, like multiple weeks in a row. So me and two other guys got sent to go see Anthony Robbins.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
You told me about it.
Yes. Yep. So Anthony Robbins, I remember him talking about mirroring. When you're married. So let's say the guy across from you that you're interviewing with, he's got his fingers, and I'm not going to be able to show you mirroring because this is a podcast. But let's say he's got his fingers crossed in front of him, like he's, like praying, and he crosses his fingers when he's talking, or he crosses his fingers and uses his hands when he talks. What you want to do is you want to nonchalantly start crossing your fingers and using your hands when you talk. And then if he leans back, you kind of wait a second and you kind of lean back a little bit. And what you'll do eventually, then you'll see what happens. Because after you've done that for about 7 minutes, that's all it takes of you mirroring this person across from you. Then you start to move, and guess what he does? He starts to mirror you. He does. And as soon as that happens, you're in control of that meeting. And it works 100% of the time. Unless, of course, they have a lot of experience with mirroring, then they're going to kind of keep an eye out for it.
And then he's going to be like, are you doing what I'm doing?
Are you doing
what I'm doing again?
Are you mirroring me? Yeah. But so it's a very common thing. And what that does is that makes them feel, and they don't know why, again, that familiarity. When you feel familiar with somebody, it's you feel comfortable with that person, right? And so it's kind of funny because
maybe picture you around the workplace, like as somebody that they talk to and chat with, and
exactly
they find pleasant.
I'll see you at the water cooler,
right? Yeah,
exactly. Somebody that says, "Hey, how was your weekend?" Great. How was your weekend? I don't know. I played golf or whatever. Yeah, I hate golf. And like I'm not going to tell a guy that I walk in his office and I see all golf stuff. I'm like, "Oh, you play golf?" Yeah, I used to play when I was a kid. I haven't really had time for golf now. I started out as a caddy, then I started playing, which is true. Then I hated it. I'm not going to tell them I hated it. I'm going to be like, I just don't have time. I wish there was more time in the day. And they always say, oh, maybe we'll go and go golfing someday. And I'm thinking, no, we won't. Never going to happen. But
right.
The thing is that,
but that's it. So let's go back to the negotiation part of it.
Yes.
And I guess break it down, just the negotiation half of it, or the part of it for the actual negotiation for women, so that they can now get the summary of the information.
The biggest part of negotiation is going to be, you cannot fear what you might lose by negotiating. And I hear it all the time because I tell somebody, you need to go in and ask for a raise. And they're like, what if I get fired? I'm like, you think you're going to get fired for asking for a raise? I mean, that's just not the way it works. But that's been and I talk to a lot of women about negotiating, and they're so afraid to negotiate. The thing is that if you have a job and you're going for another job and you really want it wicked bad, I get it. You want to just take it, whatever you can get. Yeah. But then you can't complain that the guy's making more money than you. If you want that money, you have to have the balls. You have the vagina, which is stronger than the balls. Then have the vagina. That's what
Betty White said.
Yes, and she was not lying.
Takes a good pounding.
It takes a good pounding. You flick mine with your finger, and I'm on the ground in pain. So have the vagina to actually go after what you want. You really need to say, I need this much, and kind of stick with your guns. And you'll be surprised. Either they're going to move or they're going to go, yeah, that's the max we can pay. Now, if they tell you it's the max they can pay and you just settle, say, well, I'd have to think about it, to see if it'll work for my budget, that's usually what I say. And I'll say, I'll send you an email, with what I need. And, you can let me know if you can, come up to that or get close at least. Generally, they may let you walk out the door. It's kind of like a car salesman, right? It's kind of like when you go to buy cars. I tell people, I know you love that car, but you tell them this is what I want to pay, and they have room to move. If they're not willing to move, you need to be prepared to walk out the door and go to another dealership.
Right.
You need to leave. As much as you love that car, walk out the door. Because once you walk out the door, they might chase you out the door and say, all right, we'll do it. And if they don't, then go to another one. You know,
but once you have 2 or 3 dealerships with the same kind of car that you're looking for, you can kind of play them off each other.
Oh, of course. They're gonna negotiate all day long. I mean,
I'm gonna be doing this soon with houses.
Yeah,
house
you
shopping.
will. You'll put in your. It's funny because, I just spoke to somebody who is selling a property, and we were talking about it, and they were, and I'm going to tell you, it's not for me, it's for somebody else. They're selling the property for $2.6 million.
Right.
And they go, where did you want to be? And I said, well, somewhere around 1.5. I go, this just doesn't, it's not that important, And he goes, give me a couple weeks. And if I don't have any bites in a couple weeks, then, we'll talk about the 1.5. See that? Simple.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I really don't give a shit about the property, honestly.
Right.
There's plenty of properties out there, but the location, phenomenal for what it's needed for.
Right.
Not, I shouldn't be doing this because he follows me on Facebook. So he's probably going to be like, aha. But,
see?
That's okay, though. That's okay, because I will let the property go. I have no problem with that. It's not that crucial. But it is a good property, good location. Perfect location, actually. But there are other ones that are in the vicinity as well. So, not crucial. But see, that's how negotiation works. And you need to be able to have the courage to negotiate and stand up for what you want. Because if somebody else is standing up for what they want and you're not, you can't complain that they get paid more than you. And that is why male nurses are making more money than female nurses.
I mean, overall, everybody knows kind of generally, but really inside your workplace, you really don't know what other people make anyway, unless they tell you.
You're not supposed to, right? That's supposed to be a big thing. You're not. Yeah, they're not supposed to discuss, but you can. But that's, and then they find out, but they don't find out until after they've been there for a while, and they go,
right,
wait a minute, this guy just started. Why he's making $86,000. I'm making $74,000. Why? He just started. I've been here for a year, and because he's a guy. Nope, he negotiated that price. You could have too. Now, once you're in, getting that much of a raise, not going to happen. No way is that going to happen. So,
but that's to me okay because of the price you came in at.
Correct.
Like in my head, math wise.
Right. Yes. There's no way.
Let's say I come in at 70 and somebody else comes in at 85.
Right. I'm not giving you a $15,000 raise. It's not happening.
Right. But but I'm saying if I came in at 85, I can't expect a raise as well.
Yes.
Because I came in at 85 and maybe that's closer to their max.
Sure.
So I may see a raise, but it's not going to be as frequent as if I'm making 70.
Absolutely not. And so what? Because 70, we can afford to bump you up to 70.5. Or
72 or 71 or whatever.
71, 72.
Well, 72 because it's like even I think $1 a year brings you up $2,000.
Right. So
I mean, if you sit around, ladies, with your calculator long enough, you can come up with all the formulas and stuff, right? It's 2,080 hours a year, roughly.
Yep.
If you're on salary or if you're on hourly wage,
right?
So $1 a year is roughly about $2,000
an hour. Yeah.
I'm sorry, $1 a year.
$1 a year. I'll hire you.
$1 a year.
I'll hire you. I'll give you $2 a year.
Really
raise.
bad company.
I'll give you $2 a year raise.
But if it's $1 an hour is roughly, let's say, it's almost like $2,100.
Yeah, roughly $2,100 a year.
So in your head, really quick.
Yeah.
you do the math on that and you say, okay, well, and then you have to obviously do women should, I don't know, there are a lot of women that I'm friends with that are math whizzes, so I don't have to talk to them.
Right.
But if you're not a math whiz, it's not a bad idea to kind of just get your percentages.
Yes.
In order. If somebody says, hey, I'm going to give you a 2% raise, 3% raise, 4%, you should be able to like round that out by 1,000 in your head real quick just to understand.
Right.
Obviously, you don't, it's not life or death, but it's good to kind of gauge yourself.
Right. Because you don't want to accept something and then find out later. Because most people don't really, they tell me they get a raise and I go, oh, okay. And then they see the check and they go, that's a shitty raise. You waited till you check. You should have said something while you were sitting there. Maybe you would have get a little bit more. That's why I think it's good
to be able to kind of do that quick math in your head. It doesn't have to be every single decimal point, but
correct.
Just
get
like
close.
A general idea.
Yeah, so you have an idea of what you're getting.
Like what's like 3% of 1,000 would be
$300.
Right. So you would say if you're making, let's say you're making 10,000,
it's 3,000.
You know what I mean? So like just something like that, 2,000, 3,000. Oh, okay. This is how much it is per year. I mean, even if you have to break it down to
10,000 would be, if 3% would be 300.
Right. Okay. There you go.
That would 30%.
Thank you. That was a little confusing.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
30 out of 1,000.
Yeah.
So, or let's say 100. So it'd be $3 out of 100, and then you kind of add the zeros, add the zeros.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'll go out to eat with somebody, and to me, looking at a 20% tip it's the simplest thing I've ever done in my life. And I sit down with people, and they're like, "How are you doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, if you can take 10% of anything and
move
double
the decimal point one to the left, and then double it."
Right. So it's kind of like, for me, if it's, and I know this sounds really silly, but if it's like, if it's 10% of $16, then that's like, well, that's the $1.60 or whatever.
So you double it.
You double that, you get $3.20.
That's right. That's 20% tip. Yep.
To me, I mean, well, obviously that's not what you would go out and if you go out somewhere and you can get away with a good meal for $16, please let me know where you went.
Know.
Besides McDonald's.
McDonald's, right? You don't tip at McDonald's.
If you're, if you go out and you spend, for me, a $20 tip is, I don't want to have to pull a calculator out to do that. And to me, it's not, to me, it's just if you break everything down enough.
Yeah.
Anything that you do in 10%, you can actually say, okay, well, 10% is this.
Yep.
So if I take that and double it or triple it or whatever, I don't know. It's just easy. So just have some of those multiples or those.
Yeah, just
percentages
have a little,
in your head that you can just kind of add math and stuff quickly.
That's good
while
advice.
You're there.
That's good advice.
I think so.
Yeah, especially when you're going for your raises, right?
Also, your taxes. I mean, to me, everything, I divide everything by 75%. And I say, okay, that's just about what I'm taking home on whatever the heck it is I'm looking at.
Well, you should already have that figured out anyways before you go to the interview, what you need, and have that number where you're at, right? So
also amenities, right? Let's let me throw this in really quick, like your health insurance package, your PTO, your whatever it is the company is. What are your perks? What is your vacation time?
Because that's not free to the company, by the way. That costs them money. Yeah.
That's also another good way to, like, I would think, negotiate.
Yes.
What you're getting. Mm-hmm. This is how much time you get off a year. Let's say you have 2 weeks off a year. Mm-hmm. I always factor where I work. I get a bunch of perks, so I factor that all in. Well, I make pretty good money. I could make more, but I also think about it and I go, well, here's my package for health insurance. Here's my amenity package.
Yes.
Here's how much money I have off. Here's how much time they give me off a year.
Well, right. And watch this. How many people out there have gotten a job and they don't get vacation time till they've been there for a year? Right? Very common. Yeah, very common. Yep, it's very common.
Me, but okay.
Right, yes. A good company will give you your vacation time right away.
I think it's 30 to 60 days on your health insurance, which is fair.
Yeah, that's
I think
there's a reason for that.
Just paperwork-wise, it
costs. So to bring in a new hire costs roughly about, depending on their salary, but your standard everyday job, like, okay, so for example, somebody that's getting a new job at McDonald's, all the paperwork that needs to be done, all the insurances that need to be filed, like all that stuff, cost that company about $30,000 with training and everything. It's roughly about $30,000 to bring you in the door.
About training, but yeah,
and that's to bring you through the door. Now you get a job that you're making over $100,000 a year. they're looking at about probably going to cost them somewhere around $40,000 to $50,000 a year to have you there because of the insurances and because they're going to have better insurances and they have, higher stuff like that. So, if I bring somebody in and I'm giving them $100,000, they're costing me $150,000 a year with all the crap that I got to pay. Right.
And that's good it's just good for people
to understand,
to look at that whole thing, just to understand the picture of it.
Now, yes, that's not going to put money in your pocket, and that's not part of your negotiation deal, although they will use that and be like, so another thing that I always negotiate too, not only do I negotiate my salary, but I also negotiate my vacation time. I'll be like, I always do. So I won't take a job unless they give me 4 weeks paid vacation, period.
Right.
I want 4 weeks paid vacation because I know that I'm going to be working a lot. So 4 weeks is not a lot of time to take off in a year.
Right.
So there's all those things that you have to consider, and that's all negotiable. They may have a company policy that they say, you get 2 weeks your first year. You get then after your first year, we'll give you 4 weeks. Sometimes you can negotiate that to get it in much quicker. Like I went to a company and they said, well, our insurance doesn't kick in. You have to be here for 6 months before we offer you health insurance. I said, yeah, I'm not interested in that. My insurance needs to start within 60 days, the latest. And they said, oh, we can do something for you. And they did. Right. My insurance started quicker. So everything is negotiable. It's whether or not that they're willing to put the money in. But if they want you, they will do certain things for you. And that's it. You have to not be afraid to walk out that door without that job. That is the key to succeeding. Yep. I know it sounds crazy because
that's why it's so good to have a job before you.
Yes, because then you can do that. And, like I have a friend of mine, he's been at a job for years and he's making really good money. But he just got a job where he's making, I think 22,000 more than he was making. And it's 100% work from home where his other job was, like a 40% work from home. So not only does he work from home now 100% of the time, he's also making $22,000 more a year than he was making before. And he went in, he was able to negotiate the shit out of that job because he already had a job. And he's like, well, if you don't hire me, no harm, no foul.
Right.
It'd be nice.
Just keep on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you see something else.
But because you have that ability to go in and negotiate, I highly recommend it. And I get it that,
it's your poker chip, I think.
It is. It's totally a poker chip. And you go in there with a poker face too. And you can't hide a poker face. Nobody can hide a poker face. I don't care how good you think you are. Desperation shows, especially for people that deal with people all the time, like myself. If I'm interviewing people all the time, I start recognizing people's things pretty quickly, their tells and their, they may say certain thing to me. And as you know, that's part of the reason why me and Lana do this. We love psychology, right? Yeah. So when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm totally sucking their psychology. Like, give me that. I want to know all about it. And so I pay attention to everything. I pay attention to their, when I ask them a question, if they feel uncomfortable about it or whatever, I can tell they need the job as opposed to, it'd be nice, but I don't have to have it. But then don't forget too, there's a happy medium here
balance.
too.
Don't go in there and be like, I don't care enough that they're like, all right, well, I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, toss your resume in the trash either. Right.
So one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my life is when I worked at IBM, right? Because IBM pays a lot of money, and I would go and apply, and I would keep IBM off my resume because IBM paid. So I'd go somewhere and they'd be like, well, we found you on the internet. You used to work for IBM. We can't touch that salary. I'm like, I'm not asking for that salary. They go, yeah, but eventually somebody's going to, we're going to go through the process. We're going to have you on board. We're going to do the onboarding, and you're going to leave us for somebody else that will give you that money. Yeah. And we can't. So they don't touch you,
Right.
So
you're overqualified, man.
Yeah, I hate that word. That's so dumb.
I know. I actually used to get that in radio. People used to think they were discovering me, and they would call me up and be like, hey, I'd like to be on this radio station. And I'd give them my resume, and they'd be like, oh.
Yeah, you're overqualified.
Because what they wanted to do was pay me $11 an hour. And then once they realized I had like 7 years under my belt and I had done 14 different jobs at the station, they would be like, oh, you're just going to ask us for something we don't want to pay. So never mind.
Yeah.
But that happened a lot.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. And don't sell yourself short. That's another thing too. If you find that you're going to places and they're saying you're overqualified, then move up, move for a different position. There's nothing wrong with that either, because, if, let's say, for example, you've been a project manager for a company for tons of years, and I'm looking for a development manager, a manager that handles all the project managers. Don't think that you can't come in and do that. You could.
Right.
So, in fact, I'd love to hire somebody that's a project manager, because they know what project managers need. They know what makes them tick. They know what they do.
So they know the other side of the desk.
Exactly. So now all you got to do is give them a little bit of training and be like, you're in control of all these project managers now, and you are the one that's going to help them keep their shit together. So don't be afraid to move up in your career either. And that's another thing too. Well, I get passed over for promotions and this and that and the other thing. Well, don't forget, and I know it's not fair, but if somebody is there, male or female, more than you, and they're doing more work than you, then they're going to get the promotion. Not because you're female. It's because, well, we can't give the promotion because we know that this particular job, think of this. Let's say you have a big job, an executive level, and you say, I'm going to apply for the VP role, but right now you're in a management role, and you've gone home several times throughout the year because your kids are sick. You can't do that as a VP. So you're going to get passed over to the next person, whether it's male or female. And I know it doesn't seem fair, but that's the way it works, right?
Employers are what they are.
Yeah. Exactly. And they don't owe you anything. The employer doesn't owe you anything besides hopefully respect and a paycheck.
Right.
You're there to do a job. If you're there to complain, if you're there to, bitch and complain, if you don't like your job, go get another one. I have the thing too is I find that a lot of times, and it's happening more with guys now than it used to, they're starting to create their little groups of little bitch and moaners is what I call them. And if I find somebody stirring the pot at one of my companies, I will fire them, because misery loves company, and you get one person that's not happy with the job, they can make everybody's job miserable. And people used to do it to me, and they'd come to me and they'd be like, oh, this job, blah, blah, blah. This one did that. That one did that. And I used to say, I don't want to hear it, because it's not affecting me. Don't make it affect me. I'm not getting that same crap that you're getting apparently. And I don't want to even hear it. I'm not getting involved. I don't go to Christmas parties. Drama. I don't do any of that crap. I keep to myself. I do my job and I go home. And it's worked well for me, So, and ladies, we're running out of time here. So
so summarize, Dave. I'm trying to get you to summarize your steps.
Yeah. So
give us the bullet points, dude.
The bullet points of this: just make sure when you go in with a healthy attitude, know your surroundings, know where you're going. Okay. And make sure that you're not afraid to ask for what you want. That is crucial. Ask for what you want. And then ask if you have the job. It's like closing the sale, right? Ask. It's not going to hurt. They may say, wow, they may laugh, and make it a joke if you feel uncomfortable. Say, when do I start? If that makes you feel more comfortable. Something like that. You want to keep your interview light. Do not flirt in an interview. There's not, especially obviously if it's a guy, definitely do not flirt, because that spells disaster for us. And if a woman flirts, I'm all set, because I know that could create all kinds of drama in the workplace, and it could create a problem for me. So I won't hire her. Make sure that you're dressed appropriately when you go into an interview. And when you're negotiating, ask what you want and be sincere about what you want. Don't go in there and be ridiculous. And do your research on the job. You can look up this Glassdoor and stuff like that will tell you what the average salary is for your area for that particular job. And it'll tell you the low and the high. Go in at the high. Good. There's nothing wrong with that. Do a little research and find out if that job even pays what you need. You may find that.
I believe that. You should definitely know what it is you need to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what it is that's possible to get based on whatever the field is, whatever the region is.
Because it changes all the time too. You know, there are people like in software development, there are people making $250,000 a year to start. And, you know, those rates have dropped substantially to like 120, 125.
Yeah, we're dealing with a weird recession in tech
totally.
right now.
So, yeah, even tech is taking that. And it's not required because we're still selling tech as big as we were before. So why the salaries are changing, I have no idea. But, you know, that's got nothing to do with this.
Oversaturation, that's what I think. But
I think so too. So those are basically my bullet points. Make sure you believe in what you're selling, which is yourself. Don't go in there with your tail between your legs. Make sure you stay confident and have a conversation, and don't be able to take it outside of the work conversation too without making it flirty, because you know how guys can be. Guys can think that you're being friendly. That's flirty. And
I would like to say that
be careful with both.
And this is just from the girls. My girls, we're pretty logical, and we're a different type. They say often, you're not getting interviewed. You're also doing interviews. Mm-hmm. So you're not only being talked to about whether you're right. You're also interviewing your employer to see whether they're okay for you.
Correct.
So
you want to make sure.
Ways.
Yeah. Ask questions about the job, because you may go there and be like, you know, what is your family policy? What is your this policy? What's that? You know, find out too. Like I've asked, for policies, what is your overtime policy? You know, if I work overtime, do I get paid more money or do I get comp time? And they go, well, and I go, well, I prefer comp time. You know, and if those of you that don't know what comp time is, that means if you work a 40-hour week and you're expected to, and usually my jobs are salary, so we don't get hourly, but I don't want extra pay if I work 60 hours in a week. I want those extra 20 hours that I can take off and still get paid. It's extra vacation time is really what it is. It prevents burnout. So don't be afraid to ask. Ask about the benefits.
It also prevents higher tax bracket.
What's that?
It also kind of prevents a higher tax.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah. You know, it prevents burnout, prevents different tax bracket for sure. It's not fair that you work overtime and pay a different tax. That's silly, but whatever. So, but make sure you go and like ask the questions, you know, go in. It's okay to bring a pad and a paper with you, by the way, and, you know, take notes while you're
Should you bring a copy of your own resume? You should.
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple copies of your resume. When you come in, because chances are pretty good he's going to be like, you got your resume? They didn't give it to me, you know?
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to hand it. And you may walk into a meeting, your interview may not be with one person. It may be with several. So make sure you carry something in it. If it's a professional job, especially, make sure you have, you know, a briefcase or some sort of case where you carry
something. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You don't ever want to go in there just with carrying paper in there like you know, just come off, you know. If you're a professional, you should act.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you already have an attaché or some sort of case. Yeah. So, that's it. And
hey, that was pretty good. That was informational.
Yeah, definitely. I hope it helps.
There was a lot of way more information. So Dave and I talked about this in our show notes. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, this should be pretty quick," and blah blah blah. See, look at this. Look, it's been an hour of information. There was actually quite a bunch of data that
Yeah, well, you
may way more than you thought, right?
Yeah, well, it always is, right? I mean, it's a process. So just like anything else, you know, good luck out there, and ladies, time to stop making as much money as the men, and that's you're in control of that. You know, when I hear people, like I said, if I hear you complain that men make more money than you, I'm going to just look at you and go, you didn't negotiate as much as he did. He beat you. Fair and square. It's got nothing to do with whether he's a man or not. And I know there'll be people out there that argue with this. Look up the statistics and talk to anybody who's in the hiring area. They will tell you, you didn't ask me for more money, so why would I give you more money? We're not here. My job is not to give away free money. If I can get you for 80, why am I giving you 100? I'm not. Right? So my job is to fill that position with somebody who can do the job. That's it. So you guys have a spectacular day. I've been David.
I have been Lana. And
you've been very quiet this whole time, mostly.
Well, it's been your podcast. I mean, you're the one that's giving us tips on how to negotiate. So I wasn't going to step in. I asked some questions.
You did.
I added a couple things in there where I wanted to make sure that I brought them up.
Yep, absolutely. I think it was a good one. I liked it. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, you just listened to Love and Life with Lana and Dave. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please share the podcast, leave us a comment or review, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. We'll see you soon.